Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be using lots of lovely layers. So I'm using the mushrooms, the wood vase, the fall bounty, which has like gourds and pumpkins, and then the autumn bouquet, as well as the heartfelt hello stamps and dies, and the, what is it, fancy frames? Yeah, fancy frames. So here I have a piece of Canson Monteval watercolor paper, and I'm just going to line up all of the dies that I need to cut out. Normally I cut them out of just regular white cardstock, but because I knew that I wanted to use my distressings for watercolor, I just picked up my watercolor paper. This was kind of fun actually. It was like kind of like playing Tetris, trying to fit all the pieces into this one sheet of watercolor paper. But anyway, so once I got them where they all fit, then I taped them down and then I ran them through my die cutting machine. I did have to kind of do it from one side and then the other because that sheet of paper is a little bit long. Then I split them all up into groups, and we're going to go right into the technique that we're doing. So I was going to do ink smushing. I have a whole story behind this, but we'll have to wait until we get a little further along. So I wanted to do ink smushing because I was like really feeling that vibe. But when I was putting down my distress inks and smushing it, as you can see, the smushy is not working. And I was leaving with like a lot of white gaps and things like that. So if you were super confused by the title of my video, it's because I ended up literally finger painting these. Like, you're going to see it here soon, right out the gate. So these are all the stems for my pumpkins and gourds. And so I'm trying to do them brown. But as you can see, I'm pulling them out there and they're still white. I'm having to put them back in. And I was having a really hard time with getting any color on them. So I'm like, okay, let me try to put more color down, and I'll put, less water, and maybe I'll be able to get more intense color. Maybe the problem is I had too much water, which really honestly I was like, that shouldn't be a problem. It should absorb into all of it. But I think it's because the lovely layers have all this beautiful embossed detail, which I love. It's one of my favorite things about them. Here is where I'm like, forget about it. I'm finger painting this. It's just, this is what's happening. And so you'll see me go back and forth between the two, between dipping it in and then adding the more intense color with my finger. Could you use a paintbrush? Yes. But the difference between, and I understand not everybody likes to get messy, and that's totally fine. But using a paintbrush gives it a softer wash. It gives it a more even wash, which is not what you get when you ink smush. And that is the look I was going for. That more kind of distressed, uneven kind of look. And so, yeah, I just finger painted them and it was fine. I dipped them in. I added shading where I wanted to, with my finger to get, more intense color, where maybe I wanted some more shadows or where I wanted more color variation. And it worked perfectly. And guess, my fingers are free. I didn't need anything else to do it. So we're just going to go through. We're going to do all of the color combinations. This particular one is antique linen and pumice stone, which is a great kind of combination for the mushroom stems. And then I also did a pumpkin, like that kind of creamy-ish off-white color, just as to put in some neutrals. The color scheme for this was very much inspired by the new release. So Honeybee, whenever they have a new release, they always do like a pearl pack or a gem pack and then a paper pad. And so the colors that I chose were very much inspired from the gem pack, which you'll see at the end of the video when I finally put gems on it. For the yellowish orange, like the golden yellow, I picked fossilized amber and wild honey, and then when I put them on the glass mat, I quickly realized that they were pretty much the same tone. Like, I wasn't getting any dimension. So some of them I will do in this combination, and then some of them I will go back in and add rusty hinge, just to get a little more depth into the pieces. So before we get on to story time, this is part of a video hop for Honeybee, and I'm actually the last stop on the hop. So if you're just coming to me because you follow me and you saw I had a new video, you're gonna, so you don't miss out on any of your chances to win, you're gonna want to go back to the Honeybee channel because I'm the end of the road. But they're giving away two $50 gift cards, and the instructions are below in the description box. And they'll announce the winner on September 4th. So, there's a chance to win. And then also, if you have Instagram, they did an Instagram hop yesterday. And so there's a chance to win over there as well. Because who doesn't want to win? Everybody wants to win. I used to enter card challenges all the time because I was broke and I wanted new card making stuff. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to try to win these gift cards, or I'm going to try to win the bundle they're giving away, or what have you, because I didn't have the money to pay for it. So anywho, that's what's going on with the video hop. So where did this kind of inspiration come from? So I told you that in a couple of videos ago, that my friend Dawn and I have been doing like crafty video sessions, where we can see each other and chat and kind of show each other our projects and things like that. And Dawn is amazingly talented at so many things. One of them, which is, honestly, is really like surprising to me. Not that she's good at it. I'm not surprised when she's good at anything. But I'm surprised that it's kind of like her vibe is kind of like a mixed media. And so I think it was one day this past week. Oh, here you can see my total mess. That's Victorian Velvet PPS, which is a color I almost never use. But apparently when I was refilling it, I got ink on the lid, and now it looks like that. Guess what's never going to make a cameo in any of my photos? That ink pad. But also seedless preserves. Now, is a pinkish purple unconventional for mushrooms? Sure. Do I care? No. Creative license. I'm claiming creative license. I did the florals, this purpley pink color. I added it into some of the leaves, and then these little mushrooms, and I think that they're perfectly adorable. But anyway, so we we chat with each other and look at each other's projects and stuff. And so she was doing something similar. Not the finger painting, obviously, but like similar with inking and things like that. And her card came out like so beautiful, which I'll link it. I know it's a video hop, so but maybe when you're watching, not during the video hop, I'll link her video below for one that she just put up, so you can go over and check it out. It's so pretty, and like her eye, she leaves her whole process in, which I think people appreciate seeing. But like her eye for color and balance is just, it's really, really beautiful. And so she inspired me to get out my distress inks and give this a go, even though it isn't necessarily a go-to for me. It was a lot of fun to do them this way. Here, these are the 3 leaves. These are from the Fall Bounty, and I just knew that I wanted them to be a couple of different colors. So as I went through, I just, kind of picked and chose which ones I thought would look nice together. So it ended up with like that golden yellow color, the purplish pink, and then green is what I ended up doing them. And but anyway, so she has such a great eye for that. Totally inspired me to do this. Mine is a bit cleaner. It's not as layered as her style is, but I don't have an issue with that, because just like when I talked to you guys about making your cards your own, like I was 110% inspired by her project and loved the way that it came out. But all of the layers and like hers has sewing on it and all kinds of stuff going on, which is stunning. But that's not my jam. And so I was inspired by her and then took that and made it my own, which is more of a clean version. It still has the same integral pieces. Like it still has the kind of messy watercolor look with lots of color variation. It still has like the spatters. It still has a little bit of metallic. Now I chose to do embossing. She used gold foil for her sentiment. But like you can clearly see that one was inspired by the other, but it isn't an exact copy. And now if you are a beginner, please don't take that as a snide comment. It's not meant to be that way. I think when we're all starting, we all kind of copy what we see until we develop our own style. And some people just know what their style is out the gate, but that's not the majority of us, and it certainly wasn't me. I mean, when I first got into card making, this is so comical. When I first got into card making, distress inks were just hitting the market, which is so funny. Like I'm still using them later because they're such a great product. But so distress inks were first hitting the market, and the person who was using them the most was obviously Tim. And his style is very like grungy and distressed, and so that's what was popular at the time. And I can appreciate other people's art styles. Like just because it's not mine doesn't mean that it's not pretty or not even just pretty, like that it doesn't have value, that I can't see the worth in it just because it's not my style. But I did try my hand. I did try my hand at the distressing and the layering and the grunge look, and let me tell you, it's not something I'm good at, and it's not something that I enjoy. And maybe I would enjoy it more if I was better at it. I don't know. I can look at other people's cards and be like, that's stunning. But then when it comes to my card, I'm like, nope. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do that. I don't like it. So this is my kind of take on the same sort of concept, with that kind of messy watercolor for the die cuts. Now here, everything is colored and it's dry, and we're going to start putting all of our layers together. So this particular mushroom has 3 layers. It has the base, which shows the stem. It has the small mushroom, and then it has the large mushroom cap. And look at how cute they are. And they have like a ton of texture, because not only do we have the beautiful texture that's embossed into it, that's why we love lovely layers, right? Because they do look so realistic without us really having to do a whole lot of work, because Honeybee's already done it. But here, that's the wrong lid for that pumpkin. It's the wrong stem. I call it a lid because when we carve pumpkins, for Halloween, everybody has to keep track of their lid. Otherwise, we end up playing like, instead of magical chairs, it's like magical lids, trying to figure out which pumpkin lid fits the right pumpkin. But anyway, that's not the right one. I didn't realize it at the time. And do I think it matters ultimately at the end of the day? No, I don't. I think you can use any of these stems probably pretty interchangeably. But the problem that I ran into was that the stem that is intended for it's pretty apparent that is the stem it's intended for. You're going to see it here in just one second. It's the gourd. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, I used that stem already. So thankfully it wasn't completely dry, and I was able to just pluck it off the pumpkin and then put it onto the gourd that it matched. And then I actually looked at my layering guide and was like, oh, this one is just like a little teeny tiny, because of the viewpoint, the perspective of the pumpkin. So it's just a little guy. So then I got him on, and now then I was able to move on to the next thing. These came together really, really fast, honestly. What were we talking about? Oh, so the distress inking. This is a technique that I've done before, but typically, because I like bolder color and I like a lot of dimension, I would add something over top of it. Usually it's alcohol markers that I would add more shading to it. And in fact, over the summer, I did one that was the Lovely Layers Strawberries that used this, like the ink smooshing technique in the background. And then I added Copic coloring over it to maintain the texture. but still give me the dimension that I wanted with the coloring. Here, I didn't add anything extra. I just let the watercolor be. And even though it's not as detailed or maybe necessarily as dimensional as I could make it with Copic markers, I still think it came out really pretty, and it's a totally different look. It just gives a different vibe than something that is cleanly colored. We were talking about texture. That's what we were talking about. So I was saying we have all this like beautiful embossed texture. Here I'm putting the wrong stem on the wrong one again. Don't worry, I realized it much sooner than I did the last one. But then you also have, because we have that irregular application of the watercolors, it provides a ton of texture. So here's the background that I originally did. This is way too messy for me. I'm not saying that it's not pretty, but I don't love it. It is much too busy for me. So I had already put together everything, and this wood vase, if you haven't seen it before, actually cuts a small slit in the top so that you can actually put the flowers inside the vase. But here, like, to me, on like the teal background, it's so much cleaner. It's so, like, the colors can really shine. And so I kind of mulled that over. In the meantime, I knew that I wanted to do something for the outside, not too much, but something to just add a little bit of interest. So I'm using the largest die from the frames. And we used this in the video the other day, and it's got this really pretty embossed, detailed frame. The Desert, what is this? It's Desert Storm cardstock, I think. If it's not Desert Storm from Nina, it's Sand from Hero Arts. It's one or the other. But it's a very pretty craft color, but I wanted something that was much warmer, that matched the inking that we had going on. So I just went in with my brushes. I put down some brush corduroy and then added some further shading to really help that embossing pop with the ground espresso. So I'm not going to show you the whole thing. You get the idea. Then I trimmed down my teal piece. This is 3 3/4 by 5. And that fits perfectly into that space. And I did like this, but honestly, I got super scared to pull the trigger on a teal background. And so I did end up going with white. I still really love it. I have to get over my fear of colored cardstock in my backgrounds. But I just love a white because I like the clean look. I just do. So anywho, I taped down my paper. This paper is also cut to 3 3/4 by 5 so that it will fit into that frame. And then because all of my florals are tucked into this vase, I have to glue them all down at the same time. Are they going to all glue successfully and securely? Absolutely not, because there's just too many layers. But I have to get it down, and then I can go back in and lift up, the different pieces, parts, put glue under it to make sure everything gets securely fastened. This piece of press and seal is really, truly on its last leg. I think I was having a hard time with it burnishing to my glass mat. And I think the reason that is because the piece is a little bit smaller than I would normally use. I used this for something else, but I can't remember what it was. Something I cut in half. But here is where I'm going in and just kind of re-securing down those top pieces to make sure they're not going to go anywhere. So then once I had those in, before I adhered the rest of the pumpkins at the base, I put in just a little bit of ground so my vase wasn't floating. And I just did this with a W1 and a W3. So just some warm grays just to give it a place to stand. And then I went in and adhered the rest of my pumpkins and mushrooms. I wanted to add a little bit more interest, and so I decided to pop my panel up. So I put some foam on the back of it, and then because this is super, super sticky, I am going to put some glue, some liquid glue on the back of that, just to buy myself a little bit of wiggle room, which you'll see here in a second I totally need, because you guys are seeing it from up above. When I'm making it, I'm not. I'm seeing it from an angle, and so it's very hard to line it up and make sure it's even. So that is why I have to pick it up and look at it dead on so that I know it is where it's supposed to be. So I told you there were spatters. But mine are substantially more controlled. So I'm using, this is Gold Perfect Pearls mixed with a little bit of water. I am using that as my shine, and I'm just adding it to like the golden orange and golden yellow elements. Normally, I use a clear shine, but I thought the gold would be really pretty, and it is. But then I am also going to go in and do some very fine gold spatters all over the whole piece, which is going to give more of that like watercolor element, kind of like nod to mixed media without really being mixed media. And then this is the other thing. This is so funny. Dawn totally called me out, and she told me you guys would too. That's why I'm telling the story. So there's somebody on Instagram, and I don't know who it is. I'm going to have to look it up. But they do like white spatters on all of their cards, and it's so, so pretty. And so I was telling her, I was like, I got to do these white spatters. I said, but I don't have like the white Copic ink to do it. And she was like, you could do it with gouache. And I was like, but I don't have any of that. And she was like, well, you could do it with watered down white acrylic paint. And I was like, but I've tried that and it doesn't really work as well. And she's like, well, no, you have to get the consistency right. And I was like, that seems like a lot of work. I'd rather just buy it. And she goes, well, that's not being a cheap chicken now, is it? And I was like, oh, touche. She's got me. So here I am watering down my white acrylic paint to get my white spatters. It did work. And obviously that is cheaper than buying anything else. I'm not saying I won't buy something, but it did work, and it was nice that it worked. For the sentiment, I stamped it on the same colored cardstock, heat embossed it in gold, and then I used its die to cut it out. This would match because I have those same kind of neutrals. However, it was really hard to read the gold heat embossing, so I went in and added some ground espresso to it. It might be a hair too dark. But it's okay. It was better than too light and not legible. So I went ahead and adhered this down right in this little nook that I left for it. And then we're going to go in. This is the gem pack. This is called Homestead Harvest. And you can, it's very easy to see where my color palette inspiration was drawn from. Ultimately, I ended up going with the like copper or brown ones, just to kind of accent my sentiment. So I did a little to the right, a little to the left, a little to the top kind of thing. And then that's it. That's the whole card. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you are inspired to maybe do a little finger painting of your own. I will be super interested. Please let me know if you decide to take on this technique. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to head below to the description so you can hear all the instructions and you don't miss your chance to win. I always appreciate your time. Thank you so much for spending it with me, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye.